There is a moment every summer where you lift the lid, look down at the bars, and decide you'll just cook on it anyway. You know the moment. People are coming in an hour, the meat is sitting out, and the grate underneath that lid is black, not dark, not seasoned, black with a texture to it, ridged and pebbled like something geological. You poke it with the tongs. It doesn't move. So you tell yourself the heat will handle it. It won't. It never has. And the thing is, you have tried. You bought the wire brush, the good one with the long handle, and leaned into it until your shoulder ached and the bristles bent sideways against the bars. You bought the degreaser. It's still under the sink right now, 3/4 full, because after the first bottle you noticed it wasn't actually doing anything. You did the trick where you close the lid and run every burner on high for an hour, standing in the yard while the smoke drifted over the fence, waiting for the black to just burn away. And here is the cruel part. Every one of those things works for about 10 minutes. The grate looks better. You feel like you won. Then you cook on it twice and the black is back, thicker than before you started. Add it up sometime. The brushes, the bottles, the replacement grates you bought because the last set got so bad you gave up on them. There are people watching this who have spent more money cleaning that grill than the grill cost. And it is dirtier today than the day they started. That is not bad luck, and it is not laziness. It is because every one of those tools was built for a different problem than the one you actually have. Now, meanwhile, and this is where it gets interesting, there are kitchens in Amish country where the cooking surfaces have been in continuous, daily, heavy use since before your grandparents were born. Not restored, not replaced, used. The same iron, the same steel, cooking the same food, for 100 years and more, handed down through a family the way other people hand down a watch. And they did it without a single thing from the cleaning aisle. That's not a lifestyle preference. That's a constraint. No electricity for the powered scrubber. No weekly trip to the hardware store for a fresh bottle of something. No culture of throwing the dirty thing away and ordering a new one by Thursday. When you cannot buy your way out of a problem, you are forced to actually solve it. And what they landed on is faster than anything you're doing now, costs nothing, and uses a material you have been throwing in the bin this entire time. Under 2 minutes a night, no scrubbing, no chemicals, nothing purchased. But before we get to that, we have to deal with what's already welded onto your grill, because none of the prevention matters while that crust is sitting there. So here's how this goes. First, what the black actually is, and once you see it, the reason every tool failed becomes obvious, and so does the fix. Then the rescue, about 6 minutes of hands-on work to strip a grate back to bare metal. Then the habit, 90 seconds a cook. That means you never do the rescue again. One honest warning first. If your grates are cheap chrome plate and that plating is already blistering and flaking off, this will take the last of it. Nothing saves those. This is for cast iron, stainless, solid steel, and porcelain that's still intact. If that's you, keep watching because your grate is almost certainly recoverable. Quick thing before we go on, drop a comment and tell me what you've been using and how long the results actually held. I want to see if anybody's ever won. So, the black. That layer is not burnt food. It is not dirt in any sense you'd normally use the word. Dirt sits on top of things. This is not sitting on top of anything. What you have there is a plastic. And you made it. Here's the reaction. Fat and oil in the presence of oxygen at sustained high heat do not simply burn away. Above about 200 degrees Celsius. Nowhere near your grill's ceiling, that's just Tuesday. The fat molecules begin linking to each other. Not melting, not charring, linking. They form long cross-connected chains and cure into a hard, insoluble film bonded down into the microscopic pores of the metal. That's polymerization. The same reaction that turns linseed oil into a rock-hard varnish on a wooden floor. And nobody tries to remove varnish from a floor with a brush. You'd laugh at someone who tried. But that is precisely what you have been doing every weekend. Now here's the part that reframes the whole thing, and everything else depends on it. That reaction, Fat, heat, oxygen, hardening into a bonded film is not a malfunction. It is the exact reaction you want when you season a cast iron pan. Identical process. Your grill has been seasoning itself. Uncontrolled, in thick, uneven layers. On top of last month's grease and the burnt sugar from the barbecue sauce and whatever dripped off the chicken. So the grate is not dirty. Your grate is badly seasoned. Hear that again, because it changes the job entirely. You are not cleaning. Cleaning is what you do to dirt. What you're actually doing is stripping a bad seasoning and laying down a good one. Different task, different tools, and that's the one-line explanation for why nothing in your garage has ever worked. Hold on to that, because now I can tell you what the Amish figured out. For most of human history, soap was not something you bought. It was something you made out of the two things every household already produced in quantity and otherwise had no use for: animal fat and wood ash. That's it. That's the whole recipe. Fat and ash. Hardwood ash is rich in potassium carbonate. It's where we get the word potash. Add water and you get an alkaline solution. And alkali is the one thing on this earth that reliably takes fat apart. It doesn't so much dissolve grease as chemically dismantle it, breaking the fat molecules into pieces water can carry away. That is the same principle behind every degreaser on the shelf at the store. Every one. The Amish just got there 2 centuries earlier using a waste product for free. Now put those two facts side by side, because this is the part I find genuinely beautiful. The grease burning onto your grates and the ash sitting in the tray underneath them are two halves of the same reaction. One direction makes the mess. The other removes it. They came out of the same fire, which means every time you've scraped that ashtray into a bin bag and dragged it to the curb, you were throwing away the exact substance that removes the thing you're complaining about. You were never missing a product. You were missing a step. Now, gas grill. I know. Half of you are already typing it. Don't. Ash isn't hard to come by. A fireplace, a fire pit, a wood stove, a neighbor who runs charcoal, or simplest of all, one bag of hardwood lump burned once at the start of the season purely to bank ash for the summer. Few dollars, one afternoon, and ash keeps forever. It doesn't spoil, weaken, or evaporate. Seal it dry in a coffee tin, and that tin carries you through a full year of grilling with room to spare. One more thing, and it's why this beats the internet's favorite trick. You've seen the baking soda paste method. Baking soda sits around 8 on the pH scale, barely off neutral. A wood ash solution is dramatically more alkaline. Same chemistry, several rungs up the ladder. That's why ash lifts in 4 minutes what baking soda needs 20 to soften. Before the method, let's bury the 3 things you've been doing, because if I don't, you'll go back to them. Start with the wire brush. It feels effective, and that feeling is the trap. It's heavy, it's loud, it throws gray sparks off the bars and tires your arm, so your brain files it under "work done," but the bristles can't reach into the pores where the polymer has fused. They skate across the high points of a round bar and never touch the underside at all. What they do instead is shed. The pressure you need to feel progress is the same pressure that shears the wires off at the base. They snap. They lodge between the bars, or sit invisible on hot black metal where you'll never spot a thin gray wire. Then the next stake goes down on top of them. Emergency departments pull these bristles out of throats and stomachs every year, in numbers high enough that doctors have written papers about it. So let's be accurate about what that tool is. It's not a cleaning tool that occasionally sheds. It's a tool that sheds under normal use, and the cleaning is the excuse. Second, the chemical degreaser. I'll be fair to it. It's genuinely excellent at one job, lifting soft, fresh, liquid grease off a cool surface, counter, extractor hood, stovetop after a fry-up. At that, it's very good. That is not your job. Your job is a cured polymer, A surfactant at room temperature can't break a cross-linked bond. It doesn't have the chemistry, and soaking time changes nothing, because time was never the missing ingredient. So the outcome is predictable. You spray, wait the 20 minutes on the label, scrub, and remove the soft top layer of recent grease, which a damp cloth would have taken anyway. The welded base coat sits exactly where it always sat, and meanwhile the solvent has soaked into every open pore of that metal, where it waits until you fire the grill and cook it into your food. You're not cleaning the grill, you're marinating it. Third, the most popular advice online and the most dangerous: oven cleaner, sprayed on cold grates, sealed in a garbage bag overnight, hosed off in the morning. I'm not going to lie to you and say it doesn't work. It works. Sodium hydroxide is aggressively alkaline and it eats straight through carbon. Here's what it also does. It burns skin on contact, not irritates, burns. It destroys porcelain enamel and chrome plating, so people using it on coated grates are dissolving the coating they're trying to save. And it leaves caustic residue in the pores that needs genuinely thorough rinsing, not a quick hose down. Thorough. Almost nobody rinses that thoroughly. Which means a lot of people are cooking dinner on a film of a chemical that would blister their hand. So I'm not telling you it doesn't work. I'm telling you the Amish method does the same job with the mild ancestral version of the identical chemistry for free, without wrecking your coating and without a bag of poison in the garage overnight next to the kids' bikes. Now let's do it. The rescue. 6 minutes of hands-on work. Step 1, and this is the step people skip. Heat comes first. Lid closed. Everything on high, 15 minutes. On charcoal, a full chimney with the grate seated low. Lid on. You're not trying to burn the crust away. We've established that fails. You're changing its physical state. That hard, glassy, welded polymer, driven well past its comfort zone, chars through and goes brittle. It stops being a coating and becomes a shell. It cracks along fault lines you can't see. You are not burning it off. You are making it breakable. Every minute of that 15 does work that would otherwise land on your shoulder. Step 2. Mix the paste while it heats. 3 parts sifted hardwood ash to 1 part warm water. About 3 tablespoons of ash to 1 of water, scaled to your grate. Sift it. A cheap kitchen strainer over a bowl. You want fine gray powder, not black chunks of unburnt charcoal, because those chunks are hard and angular and will scratch the grate you're trying to save. Consistency is where people go wrong, so here's a test you can't misread. It has to hold a ridge, like wet sand at the tide line. Draw a finger through and the groove should stay open. If it slumps closed, it's too wet, and too wet runs straight down a vertical bar and pools in the bottom of the grill doing nothing. Too wet, add ash. Never add waiting time. Time doesn't thicken it. Step 3. Kill the heat and let it come down to warm. Warm, not hot. Warm enough that the paste steams faintly on contact, cool enough to work close safely. On most grills, 5 to 8 minutes after shutdown. Gloves on. I'll come back to why, but a strong ash slurry is properly alkaline and will dry your skin out badly if you let it sit. Step 4. Spread it, then leave it 4 minutes. Coat the bars generously. Get the undersides. That's where the worst of it lives and the exact place a flat brush has never touched in the entire life of your grill. Then wait. 4 full minutes, not 30 seconds. The alkali needs that time to creep into the cracked, charred film and work from the inside. You'll get feedback, a faint hiss on the warmest sections, and the paste itself changes color, clean gray going gray-brown as it pulls carbon up out of the metal. When the paste changes color, it's working. Step 5. Cloth and block or a ball of foil. Traditionally, coarse cloth, burlap, sacking, and old dishcloth wrapped tight around a block of wood. The modern equivalent, already in your drawer, is a fist-sized ball of crumpled aluminum foil. They work for the same reason. Both are deformable. They squash into the curve of a round bar and press into the grooves and the underside. That's the exact thing a flat, rigid brush physically cannot do, and why the brush was always going to leave most of the surface untouched. Wet the foil and run it along the length of each bar, not across, along. And here's how you know it worked, which matters more than anything else in this section. The carbon comes off in flakes, not smears. Dark, dry, brittle flakes, lifting and dropping. If you're smearing black paste around, your heat step was too short and the polymer never went brittle. Go back and heat it again. If it's flaking, you're there, and you'll notice you're barely pressing at all. Step 6. Rinse, dry with heat, seal, rinse thoroughly. Then, do not skip this. Put the grate back over low heat for 2 minutes to drive off every trace of moisture. You've just stripped that steel to bare metal. Bare, unsealed, unseasoned. Leave it wet in evening air and you'll find orange rust blooming within the hour. People do the whole job perfectly and lose the grate overnight because they walked away with it wet. While it's warm and bone dry, one thin pass of fat across the bars. Lid down. That's the rescue. 6 minutes of hands on the grill, and 15 of those minutes are the grill working while you stand there with a drink. Now let me be straight about what one round achieves, because I'd rather you hear it here than feel let down at the grill. If your grate has been building for 4 seasons, one pass isn't taking it to bare steel. And anybody promising otherwise is selling something. What one round does is take a layer, a real, visible, satisfying layer. 1 season of build-up, that's likely all of it. 2 or 3 seasons, run it twice. Genuinely neglected, the kind where the bars have lost their shape and gone lumpy, expect 3. And frame that correctly, because this is where people quit. 3 rounds isn't the method failing. It's the grate telling you how many summers it waited. Each cycle takes a layer, and layers are exactly how it went on. It came on slowly. It comes off the same way. Then it's over, because after that you're not doing rescues anymore. You switch to the habit. And the habit is the part that actually deserves the word Amish. 3 actions, 90 seconds, every single time you cook. 1. Wipe it hot. While the grate is still hot, food just off, burners still up, a damp folded cloth held in long tongs, 1 pass down the bars. Tongs always, so your hand is never near that heat. The moisture flashes to steam, and the steam gets under the fresh grease and lifts it. This grease is soft. It hasn't polymerized yet. It hasn't cured. It comes away with almost no pressure. 10 seconds. 2. Oil it warm. A paper towel with a fingertip of neutral fat dragged the length of each bar while the grate is still warm. This step isn't cleaning. This step is the entire point. That thin film seals the microscopic pores. So the next time fat drips onto that bar, it lands on fat, not bare, hungry steel. It has nothing to bond into. It sits on the surface, and tomorrow you wipe it off in 10 seconds. That's the whole secret. You're not fighting the buildup. You're removing the surface it needs in order to grip. 20 seconds. 3. Close the lid before it goes cold. Traps residual heat, keeps overnight damp and morning dew off a freshly sealed surface. 5 seconds. Wipe it hot, oil it warm, close it before it's cold. Say that out loud a couple of times, because the order isn't optional and getting it backwards is the most common way people fail at this. And here's the real insight buried in it. An Amish kitchen has no cleaning day. Not because the standard is lower, it's far higher than yours or mine, but because nothing is ever permitted to reach the state where it needs one. The work didn't get smaller. It got spread so thin across the day that nobody notices doing it. Do the arithmetic. 90 seconds a cook, 25 cooks a summer. 37 minutes across an entire season. One neglected Saturday fighting a crusted grate is longer than that on its own. A few things that will come up, and I want to answer them before you hit them. First, timing. Because the window for the hot wipe is narrower than people assume. It's right after the food comes off before the burners go down. That's it. Here's the test, better than any thermometer. Flick a drop of water at the bars. Skates and vanishes, you're in the window. Sits and beads, you've missed it. And the escalation is brutal, so here it is in 4 lines. Because this ladder is the whole philosophy. Fat wiped at 10 seconds is a 10-second job. The same fat left an hour is a 10-minute job. Left 3 weeks, it's a paste and a foil ball and a heat cycle. Left 3 months, it's a chemical problem you spend money and a Saturday on. Same fat every time. Only the delay changed. And the classic mistake, the one that undoes everything, is oiling a cold, unwiped grate. All you've done is put fresh fat on top of old grease and bake the sandwich in next cook. Wipe first. Always wipe first. Second, the fat itself, because people always ask. Traditionally, it's rendered lard or beef tallow, simply what's on the counter in that kitchen, and they build the hardest, most durable seasoning available. If you've got bacon fat in a jar in the fridge, you already have the right answer. Modern equivalents are fine. Grapeseed, canola, sunflower, refined rice bran. Any neutral oil with a high smoke point. Avoid olive oil and butter. Both smoke far too early and leave a sticky, gummy residue that becomes next month's carbon layer. If you've been using olive oil on your grates, that alone may be why the black keeps coming back. 1 teaspoon for an entire grate. That's not a typo. More than that, and you're running oil into the burner trays below, which is its own slow, smoky problem. The test: run a fingertip along a treated bar. It should come back barely marked, the way a well-used cast iron pan feels. If your finger comes back wet, wipe the excess off with a dry corner of the same cloth. The target is a sheen, not a coat. Third, sourcing the ash, and here I need you to actually listen. Hardwood only. Oak, maple, hickory, ash, fruitwoods. Softwoods burn resinous and give weaker, dirtier ash. Never use ash from treated or painted lumber. Never from pallets. You have no idea what's in a pallet. Never from briquettes full of binders and accelerants, and never from anything that had lighter fluid on it. You're making a paste that goes on the surface your food touches. Clean hardwood, burned clean, or don't do it. Sift it. Store it bone dry in a sealed tin where it keeps indefinitely. And one more piece of honesty, because I put no harsh chemicals in the title and I meant it, but alkaline is alkaline. Wear gloves. Keep it out of your eyes. Don't let it dry on your skin. This is the mild end of the same shelf that lye sits on. That's exactly why it works, and exactly why you give it respect. The difference between this and oven cleaner isn't that one is chemistry and one isn't. It's that one is the version your hands can handle, and the other is the version that burns them. Fourth, the stubborn patch. Every grill has one, usually over the hottest burner or wherever the drippings land. If a spot survives 3 full rounds, that's not the method giving up on you. That's a record of how deep the polymer went, and there's no shortcut for it. The answer is patience, not force. Hit that spot with a little paste every time you cook. 60 seconds, same window. Each round takes another microscopic layer, and by the 4th or 5th cookout, you'll notice one day it's simply gone. Which brings me to the line that I think is the whole thing. You do not have to be stronger than the buildup. You only have to be more consistent than it is. Let's talk cost, because the numbers are almost silly. The ash is free, and you made it. The cloth is in your drawer. The fat is a teaspoon of something in your cupboard, pennies per clean, and that's generous. Against that, the old way. Degreaser at $8 to $12 a bottle, several a season. A new wire brush every year because the last one shed itself to a stub. Replacement grates at $60 to $150 a set, bought far more often than they should be, usually because the brush stripped the coating and the bare metal underneath started pitting. Comfortably over $100 a year. To keep losing. But money is the least of it. The real bill is time. A neglected grate eats a full Saturday 2 or 3 times a season, and it's never just the scrubbing. It's the drive to the hardware store, the soaking, the scrubbing, the rinsing, the second rinsing, washing your hands 3 times and still smelling solvent at dinner. Set that against 90 seconds a night, done while you're already standing at the grill. The new way wins by hours, across a season, most of a full day, and they're precisely the hours you bought the grill in order to have, so you're not just losing money to the old method, you're losing the weekends the grill was supposed to give you. That's the trade nobody calculates honestly when they reach for the wire brush again. And then there's the last cost, which never shows up on a receipt. You can hand a burger to a kid without scanning it for a thin gray wire. You can cook for your parents, your friends, whoever's in the yard, knowing nothing on that plate is glazed with last summer's rancid fat or this morning's solvent. There's no price on that. It's also the only part that genuinely matters. I want to zoom out because this stopped being about a grill a while ago. In an Amish household, you don't really own tools so much as maintain them. A pan, a blade, a grate isn't a consumable with a lifespan. It's an object expected to outlast the person using it and then be handed to somebody else. That one expectation changes every decision downstream. You can't treat something roughly if you know your daughter will cook on it. You can't let it go for a season if it has to last a century. The care isn't discipline. It's just what follows from expecting the thing to last. Prevent rather than fight. Maintain rather than rescue. And you already saw it proved in that latter. 10 seconds, 10 minutes, a Saturday, a chemical problem. Same fat. Only the delay changed. The hardest mess to clean is the one you let build for a season. The easiest is the one you handled the moment it appeared. And here's the uncomfortable part. There's a reason the ash method never appeared in a commercial. Nobody can sell it to you. There's no margin in a cloth you already own, and a waste product from your own fire. An entire aisle at the hardware store exists to solve a problem that 30 seconds of attention applied at the right moment would have prevented for free. One culture got shaped by companies selling the cure. The other got shaped by households practicing the prevention. Once you see that difference, you can't unsee it. You'll start noticing it in every room of your house. And come back to where we started, because it's the most elegant part. The grease that ruins your grill and the ash that saves it are the same reaction running in opposite directions. They came out of the same fire on the same night. One you've been cursing for years, the other you've been carrying to the bin. Last thing, and it's a prediction rather than advice. The first 2 weeks will feel like a chore you're forcing yourself to remember. You'll be halfway through the washing up and have to go back outside. Around the second month, your hand reaches for the cloth before you've decided to. By the third, you'll notice something odd. You look forward to that last quiet minute at the grill, the way some people look forward to wiping down a good knife after dinner. It stops being cleanup. It becomes the last part of the meal. Here's exactly what to do starting this week. Today, run the rescue once. 15 minutes on high with the lid closed, 3-to-1 ash paste, thick enough to hold a ridge. Spread, wait 4 minutes. Foil ball along the bars, not across. Rinse, 2 minutes of heat to dry it bone dry. 1 teaspoon of fat while warm. If the grate's rough, again next weekend, and once more the weekend after if it needs it. Every time you cook from now on, wipe it hot, oil it warm, close it before it's cold. 90 seconds. Once a month, glance at the grate before you light it. If anything's crept back into a corner, 1 quick paste round before the heat goes on. That's the entire system. No spraying, no gloves and goggles afternoon, no bottle in the garage with a skull on the label, no bristles going into anybody's dinner. If you run the rescue this weekend, come back and tell me in the comments what came off on the first pass. I want to know what's been living on your grill. And if the idea here, prevention instead of cure, is one you want more of, subscribe, because that's the entire channel. Next week, we're doing the Amish method for bringing a rusted cast iron pan back from the dead. No wire wheel, no sanding, and without destroying the seasoning still underneath the rust. 2 ingredients, and one of them is in your fridge right now. See you then.